I've worked in the finance industry for over 10 years at top banks such as Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley and HSBC. And nowadays, with the inflation rate being high, all sorts of controversies and conspiracies about the economy, the government, and all sorts of experts who tell you what reality should be, I'm here to tell you the truth. To a certain extent, yes, the finance system is not fair and it can be rigged against you, as you can see in this example around inflation statistics. So in this video, I want to explain to you a bit about this inflation statistics scandal, right? Now, a good website that I'm on right now is called Zero Hedge. Now, what exactly is Zero Hedge? Zero Hedge is a website where they focus on, kind of debunking a lot of the typical finance news that you read and probably think is legitimate and good. A lot of the times, what you're fed on mainstream finance news, CNBC, BBC Finance, Yahoo, Bloomberg, things like that, they're kind of skewed. They're portraying a particular everything is normal approach to you. They're going to tell you things a bit too late. They're not going to cover scandals. They're heavily linked to major banking institutions. They're not going to be too critical of them. And in this case, we can see something that is, for me, as someone who's worked for 10 years in finance at Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, HSBC, this doesn't surprise me, but it might surprise you, and it might show you how bad things can be in terms of you being an individual who's a retail investor, right? You're investing in some stocks and ETFs. You may be doing some other a little bit more complex trades to save for your retirement, to retire early. But you're not playing a fair game because the big banks, they have some advantages over you. And as we'll see this in this example. And what do we have here? So essentially what we have is a case where we have, in order to trade, as an individual, like I say, you have your personal investment portfolio, you're relying on certain key data points, maybe the employment numbers, the inflation statistics, the interest rate statistics, the number of people who are buying, say, during the Black Friday buying spree, during Thanksgiving, during Christmas. So you can gauge, okay, which company do I want to invest in? What companies do well when the inflation is high? What companies do well when consumer spending is high? But you need that information, and you need that information at the same time as everyone else. You can't have a rigged game where, the big banks, they get information before you because they're friends with the government, and then you find out a bit too late, and by that time they've already invested and the prices have changed to adjust to that. And then you find out about certain statistics too late, and by the time it comes to you to invest, you don't really have that good opportunity. Now, what we have here is a case where so-called super users, which were major banks essentially, they would get inflation data from the US inflation government body, the BLS, Biden's Department of Labor, ahead of everyone else. So they could make good estimates in terms of rental inflation, and make investment decisions based on that way before you could. So it shows you how unfair it can be when you're trying to be an investor, just to do the right thing and prepare for your future, when you're not getting information ahead, you're not getting information at a fair time compared to everyone else. So if you look at what it says here, it says that the BLS, which is the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they were sharing data with JP Morgan and BlackRock as super users ahead of others, allegedly. We'll just say allegedly there, right? And then if you keep going onwards in terms of this article, what can we see? We see that there was lots of back and forth between the financial firms and BLS to share some of this information with the super users, which were major banks, so they were getting information ahead of you. Now, the key part of this article is right here, right? When you have certain inflation figures ahead of others in the market and you can trade ahead of them, right, which is technically front running, or technically, you're led to believe, if you're an investor, we have efficient market hypothesis. Everyone receives the same information at the same time and can invest at the same time. It's equal opportunity, but it's actually not, right? So when someone has inflation figures ahead of you, they can make inflation predictions. They can use this to invest in certain securities that are tied to inflation, like inflation-linked swaps, interest rate swaps, all these type of complex financial products that you might not be aware of. But the moment a major bank is aware of these statistics, they can trade ahead of you. They can make major moves in the market ahead of you when it comes to personal investing that you won't be able to do, but these major banks will be able to do, even if it is just a few hours ahead of you, or a few hours ahead of major pension funds that are planning to, invest for your benefit, as maybe you're someone who's paying into a pension. This goes to show you in this article, right? When, as I say, you can see on your screen right now, those inflation statistics go to banks ahead of you, so it would disadvantage your investing positions and your ability to invest efficiently. And what can you see here? Firstly, there's many common themes with some of my previous videos. Firstly, Joe Biden has a completely defunct government, like most Western governments, completely defunct, dysfunctional, rife with alleged corruption, alleged misuse, alleged weird ties between what's in the government's best interest and, let's just say, certain unspoken of groups who are way above governments in the West, World Economic Forum, things like that can control social media, censor certain opinions, label alternative opinions, conspiracy theories, talk about inflation and say that, give certain inflation data to maybe banks that are more friendly to the Biden administration, not give, they're not going to go to me or you or Alex Jones or Andrew Tate and say, well, we're going to give you some inflation data ahead of everyone else so you can invest ahead of everyone else and leverage from that special information. You're really playing a rigged game, and I know that doesn't sound too positive in this type of environment that we're in currently, where you see all types of potential instabilities in the system. You're playing a very rigged game. And I mean, what can we really take away from this? Firstly, if you're investing, invest in a safe way. Not investment advice, not financial advice, but you invest in a safe way. If you're doing anything super complex like inflation-linked swaps, interest rate swaps, which are more complex for a retail investor, you're dealing with other major banks who have way more information than you, way more ability to skew the way things are perceived compared to you, a way more to invest and alter the market price of certain things. So just be aware you're kind of playing a rigged game in that sense. Another thing I'd say is stick to maybe more conventional investments, maybe VU, broad index funds, high yield dividend investing, your typical big name companies, Amazon, Apple, things like that, Tesla. Of course, not financial advice, but those safe typical investments are a bit more, I would say, fair, because they're a kind of more predictable level of payout. You don't have as much market manipulation around those compared to certain instances where government data is coming out. And to what extent is government data accurate, right? You see these great employment statistics sometimes when anyone who has a job knows that employment right now is not really great, right? Lots of people getting laid off, lots of people in struggling positions in terms of foreclosures on homes. So they're very different reality between what the government's sending and what is actually going on. So you're dealing with all these smoke and mirrors. What should you invest in? What shouldn't you be investing? What is the price of gold being manipulated? Is the price of what's the real inflation rate, right? Because you go to the grocery store, inflation rate's not 2%, 8%, 10%. It's 15 to 30%. You look at houses, inflation rate 30%. Most assets are going up 15 to 30%, right? So you've got to see through this smoke and mirrors and understand you're not dealing with a fair system, a fair government, a fair banking system. It's really kind of you against the world. And it really shouldn't be that way. You should have, and I try to be an individual who's helping you. You should have like close-knit communities to help people see through this, and partly, the truth movement online, however you want to label it, the Great Awakening. It's all about seeing through these lies. It's not just about a spiritual thing or uncovering conspiracy theories about certain people in Hollywood, things like that. It's really about seeing through every layer of lies that is impeding you from your freedom, because that's what I'm really here to help you with, right? As a career coach, as someone who has experience in the finance industry, I'm trying to help you see through the smoke and mirrors so you can put yourself in the best position. When you're dealing with inflation data, like I say, lots of scandals around inflation and what the real level is. When you're dealing with investing and personal finance, really think ahead. If something doesn't quite add up, you're being told by major central banks that inflation isn't as bad as it really is. Why are they telling you that? To keep you calm, to trick you, to convince you not to invest in certain things like maybe physical gold that could be better at dealing with inflation compared to other things. Maybe they're trying to distract you with a news story about Ukraine or something like that. Really try to see through the smoke and mirrors here, right? You're not given a fair playing field when it comes to investing, when it comes to honest statistics, fair governments, and all of that. So take this as an example. Next time you see a news article, next time something doesn't seem quite right, next time you have that instance, think twice and try to see through the lies. But next time you think of, from a career perspective, overextending yourself for the company you work for, being overly nice and friendly and accommodating for maybe a bank, a financial institution that isn't treating you fairly, maybe blocking one of your payments, realizing no one's playing fair with you, so why are you playing fair with them? Why are you playing fair with the company you work for, major financial institutions in some cases, the government that you're paying 40% or more tax to, the lying media, the lying medical establishment to a certain extent, lying even some of these people who are alternative media, alternative finance. Some of them are misleading you. We see the scandals around crypto and decentralized finance and FTX and things like that. So you really got to be very careful. Take a little extra time, even if you just have to stay in a cash position, even if you don't make a move in your career, even if you have to think twice about who you're dealing with, what they're saying, what their agenda is, what information do they have that you don't have, why they're misleading you and deliberately pushing you in a particular direction. I'm trying to help you see through those lies by realizing not everything is what you see and what it seems. And this is a good example of that, even if it is a small one. I hope you found that helpful, right? You can see the Biden government's incompetent. Wall Street sometimes, I don't know if you can call this officially collusion, but some type of improper practices. They get key statistics around finance, inflation ahead of you. They can trade ahead of you on the basis of that information. It's not really a fair and transparent market. That's why you should look out for your best interest, not try to pretend that you're playing a fair game with major corporations, and squeeze out any leverage you can out of this system that is really not in your favor. And I hope you can take from that and try to, see it as, I'm not saying you're going to trade inflation related products, but take it as a kind of parable, a type of short story that will help you really think carefully about how you're interacting with a system that is not really, rigged in your favor. It's rigged against you, right? Play the game accordingly, right? Play the game. You're playing a rigged game, play it accordingly. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, leave a comment in the comment section below. You have 2 recommended videos on your screen right now, a free ebook in the description, and I'll see you next time.